This is a review of the new LoopDot. As you can see, it is a very small, pocketable form factor, and it is fairly intuitive to use. It comes with a case you can put it in, but you can also get this belt clip type case, and you can pop that in as well if you so choose. To turn it on, you press once on the top button, which is right there, and then you have an interface of several different options. The first option is usually throw, flood, games, and then settings. So we'll start with the throw real quick. So here you have just a regular throw that you can tune up or down. So it gives you kind of an idea here. You can, at any point in time, you can press and hold the button here and that'll reset it. Then there is also a flood option, which is the outer ring, and that is quite nice. 90 CRI, I believe, according to the manual, and it is much warmer and nicer to use. Then there's a bunch of other options, which I'll go through very quickly. In the games menu, you have a smiley face, which represents basically a variety of different options. You have a rainbow option. There is a color option where if you go in, you can basically choose the color that you have. Then if you go back, there's just kind of smorgasbord kind of effect where you can just let it pulsate like that. Rotating the ring slows down how fast it moves. And then there is also this menu here that gives you a bunch of different hearts to choose from. Then there are some warning signals. This one is just a red flasher. Then you have like a police and an ambulance kind of flasher, red and blue or red and white, depending. Now, obviously, that may be illegal to use in some places, so keep that in mind. There's also a flame, which, while it's kind of nice, you can change the speed of it. The problem is that it pulses very regularly. So you'll see here that it just goes bright and dim, bright and dim, bright and dim, and it's very regular. Whereas, at least with my Enduro lights, the candle option is a little bit more random. So it matches candle's natural randomness a little bit better. In any event, this is still fun. There's also kind of a matrix effect, which you can't really change the color on it, but you can change the speed by rotating the wheel. Then there is another effect here that just kind of slides over, and then we're back to the rainbow once again. The next option in the menu is a counter. I'm not quite sure what this is supposed to represent, but in any event, the way this works is that as you rotate the ring, it counts 1 point, and no matter which way you turn the ring, it counts. And if you keep rotating it, it'll go all the way to 1. It goes all the way up to 99. Once it hits 99, it resets, but then it shows A, and then it shows B after another 99 rounds. And so I guess it goes through the alphabet all the way to Z. Great for fidgeting with. There's also a dice option where you go in here, you give us a good shake, and it goes ahead and selects a number. Then there's rock, paper, scissors. This works the same way. You give it a good shake. If you have 2 of these, it's even better because then you can kind of compete them against each other. Yes or no looks like this, and it shows a Y first. And then when you go in, if you give it a shake, it basically flips a coin to yes or no, and there is no. Then there's also this kind of level feature, which functions as somewhat of a level, and it's not very useful for putting an angle on something because, as you'll see, you have to actually start lifting it quite a bit before it begins to actually adjust. So probably the sensitivity on this could be dialed up if they wanted this to be used seriously. There's also a timer, and the timer here, there's a caveat in the beta units, and that is that the timer will count down from the 52 dot matrix display, which means that a minute is actually only 52 seconds. Now, they've told me that when they release the full version, once it's done on Kickstarter, that the 52 seconds here will be spread out so that it actually takes the duration of 1 full minute. Something that I would love to see on this is that when you get to 52, that you could then just fill out this top row over here. So if you just go, you'd have 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, which would be great because that would get you to 60 seconds. And they could just fill out the top row with a slightly different color or something to indicate that it is filling up 60 dots. It's not as clean as if they just had 60 dots on the display, but obviously there's limitations there in the design and just the reality of how many dots you could fit. So that would be another option. Another thing that I would love to see is that instead of going up by second, I mean, if I want to do a 5-minute timer here or a 7-minute timer or, even a 20-minute timer, I have to turn this way too much. It would be great if I could just triple tap this to switch between the second mode and then like a minute mode where I could increase this by the minute. That would make way more sense. That way I could configure it as needed. And then if it would remember what I had it on last once it reaches 0 after counting down, that would be even better. So this is how it counts down. I can put it down, let it count down, and you'll see. There we go. It vibrates, it shows the time's up. It basically tries to make as much noise as it can without having a speaker. So that's pretty cool. Then there is a settings section, which is worth noting. Now, I should also mention that the settings logo or screen really doesn't make a lot of sense here, but you'd think they'd have maybe some kind of round gear or something, or a tool like a spanner, or I don't know, just something that would look a bit more like settings. But in any event, you go in here, there's really only 3 options. There is display brightness, which you can change and level up or down. Then there is rotation. So this is the rotation option. You can choose which direction you want the rotation to increase or decrease. And then the vibration is over here. You increase this and it gets quite loud. A couple other things to note is to turn the screen off at any time, all you do is press and hold the button on the top. If you want to get to moonlight mode, you just press and hold the button on the top at any point in time, and it will just go to either the flood or throw, depending on what you had last. And if you quadruple tap, 1, 2, 3, 4, it will switch to the other option. So it'll switch from throw to flood or flood to throw. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it switches back again. And then, of course, you can ramp the brightness up or down depending on what you want. So once again, you can do the same thing here. I should also mention that when you triple tap, you get strobe, and the strobe is just a regular strobe. It's not SOS or anything like that. And that's basically all the features on here. Now, things I would have liked to see, honestly, that would be a little better is instead of having this dot matrix show this little battery symbol every time, it would be great if you just go into the settings and set it to a numerical display instead. And honestly, if it were to be kind of like the timer here, where you can just see a number, I mean, that would just be great because at that point, I could see what percentage I'm at. It'd be great if you could choose between percentage, minutes left, and it could show obviously a maximum of like 99 minutes, and you could have a dot at the top or something to indicate more than, but it would just be much more useful to kind of see a minute count for your given brightness level. So if my light is on at a certain intensity, then just allow me to be able to see how much time I have left on this, just back and forward. Maybe you could light that up for a second. There's got to be ways that they could do that without making the UI too complicated. Another thought is that once you get to the dimmest setting, when you rotate it, there are actually about 14 levels here. It's not completely stepless because it's just enough steps that it feels stepless. But really, there's about 14 levels here. When you get to the top level, if you double tap, there's still a turbo beyond that. So that makes it about 15 levels from my count. But something I've noticed is that when you get to the highest level, if you keep rotating, it does a little bit of a pulse, like it tries to go brighter and then it gets governed back down. And that's the same both ways. So even when it's at its lowest setting, when you go a little bit lower, I don't know if you can really tell on the camera here, but it's actually going just slightly dimmer for like an instant and then leveling out again. So that's kind of annoying. You would think that they could have the software override that, but it would be really cool if once you get to the lowest, if you just rotate a little further, maybe give it, a few clicks, but instead of just doing nothing, it could switch to the other mode. That'd be kind of cool because, quite honestly, if I'm all the way down, I may want to just switch over if I'm still just rotating this for no reason. And likewise, when I'm at the highest setting, especially if I am on flood, it may make sense for me to rotate just a little bit further to switch over to the highest throw setting. So that may be something else that they might want to consider just from a UI perspective. Triple tap toggle the scroll wheel between speed and color switching for a lot of these different modes under the game. So for example, if I'm, you know, using this level or something, have like a triple tap or quadruple tap adjust some of the settings. Maybe the sensitivity could be adjusted. Maybe the color could be adjusted. This would be same on the matrix and many of the other settings. That would make a lot more sense. And then in addition, I would also say that something that didn't make a lot of sense to me is one of the hearts here. So for example, here's the heart menu. What is that, first of all? Maybe I'm just not seeing it, but yeah, I can't really make out what that's supposed to be. If you know what it is, let me know in the comments. But when you go into it, all of these hearts look great, except for the vertical orientation one. It's like white and then a gradient, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. So that needs to be thought through a bit. And then finally, something else I'd love to see is Bluetooth connectivity. Give us a way to update this thing, add new features, adjust things over time as they release new fixes. It'd just be great to not have to buy a new one. That would just be a no-brainer, I would think, because a lot of the functionality here is going to be software updates. But otherwise, this is great. Something I love about the cases is that this case here, you can see it goes really just one way. You would just pop it in like this. It's pretty snug. It's not going to fall out there, but it's open. So it does make the button harder to press. You'll notice that the clip is kind of upside down. At first I was like, what gives? Like, what's up with this? But actually, the reason for this is simply because when you have it on your belt, the way that you would want to pull it off, it just naturally fits your hand a little bit better, so you can immediately have it the right way up once you pull it off your belt. I didn't find this long enough for my belt, but this grippy texture was more than good enough. And then in addition to that, there's a solid magnet under there, which accounts for why they have to have it a little bit wide. But other than that, it's quite useful. No complaints there. I did notice that on the other case that comes with it, rather than the add-on case, there is no cutout for the button here. So that seems to be a design choice. Maybe it's a bit more protective, I guess. I do love the wrist strap. It's kind of a nice soft fabric here. So that makes it easy to just put around your wrist. You can pop it in here. The best way I've figured out to just pull these off is to pull it off from the top. And this does fit a little bit more snug. And once it's in, you'll see that it basically just works the same way. Now, at first, it does take a little bit of getting used to. When I first started using it, it was a little bit annoying because I couldn't get used to the clickiness of this. So I think that probably needs to be worked out a little bit better. Maybe that was their intention in the cutout in the updated case with the belt clip. But I do find it a little bit annoying because there's not really much of a clicky sensation to this particular case that comes with it. So that could probably be ironed out a little bit as well. And it sticks quite well to different things. So here we have it. It sticks quite well to my Leatherman. And I must say though, that this magnet in here is not nearly as powerful as the one on the belt clip. And I think that's just probably a limitation of the form factor and size. But the magnet in here is quite a bit stronger. You'll see that this just clicks on and it really holds. It's not going to fall off or anything. So there's a significant difference there in magnet strength. And I find it to be quite convenient, small, and very easily pocketable or clippable onto anything, whether a backpack or a strap or something else like that. But overall, really, this is a great light. It comes with a good IPX6 rating. Could be better, honestly. A 600 milliamp hour battery. On the moonlight setting, you'll get about 100 hours. On low, half a lumen, they advertise 80 hours. Though I think they'll probably rework their spec chart, as half a lumen is a bit low to really consider a work light, and is still kind of in the moonlight territory. On high of 90 lumen flood or 150 spot, you'll get about 1.6 hours. Turbo claims 1.5 hours after a 30-second step down. I would test some of these specs, but I think their test units aren't always as well regulated as release models anyway, so I think that we're liable to see a few improvements here based on what you see. The interface is very easy to pick up. This is a great fidget toy, especially for those who may have ADHD or something. It has a nice sensation to it. You can just really feel it. Might help you focus. This is the only flashlight I've ever had that my wife instantly stole, but it does fit well in the hand. It has good visual appeal, and I must say, it is a fun little light to have. With all that said, let's take it outside and see how it performs. So here's a comparison of the Woburn G5 with the LoopDot. So this is ramping up here, all the way up to high. So this is high on the LoopDot, and then that's the Woburn's turbo, and here's the Dot's turbo, clearly considerably brighter. So here we'll go from the flood to the throw, and we'll dial that up here and see what that looks like. Here's turbo, so at turbo it reaches the trees here, doesn't really hit anything else of course, but nonetheless, not too bad. First I'll walk around and demo flood, and then I will demo the throw. And just for fun, the Loop SK05 Pro, for which there is no comparison.